We are live. Greetings, everyone. It is Ujo Wajet, and today I'm going to be talking about pendulums. So, I have a few here with me. What to expect for this mini training is really just for me to talk about really what pendulums are, if it's something that's right for you. Also, how you can actually use pendulums and certain things that you want to avoid when it comes to pendulums. So, if it's something that you're curious about, something that you have been interested in learning, wanting to try, or maybe you have pendulums, maybe you have a pendulum right now, but you're not really using it and you want to know what more you can do with it, or maybe you're struggling with how to use it properly. Let me know if you have any questions. You can also always post in the comments and I can respond there. And if you are watching the replay, make sure you post hashtag replay and let me know any questions that you might have. So let's talk about pendulums. What are they? So I have a few here. Pendulums are tools, just like many of you know, I love tarot. It's one of my favorite tools for divination, for personal growth. And you can use pendulums as a divinatory tool or just as a way to get clarity on a situation. But it's a tool that you can use, and there are different ways that you can use this tool. Now, when it comes to the types of pendulums, there are many different types. So let me just show you, so this one here is one that has an amethyst. And this is one, I use this quite a bit actually. So you can get pendulums. So if you're into crystals, you can get pendulums that have a crystal attached to it. You can also get pendulums like this one that is made of certain metals. You can get copper pendulums. You can also make your own pendulums. The whole purpose is you really want to have some type of weighted object at the end of a string or a chain. So that's how a pendulum is constructed. So you don't have to purchase a pendulum. You can make your own, even with stuff that you have around the house. So you might even have a crystal or even just some type of weighted object that you can attach to a string, and you can use that as a pendulum. So, hey everyone. So, and as you see here, I have different shapes. Let me just pull these up. So, and I have some other ones too. I thought I had another one nearby. These are different shapes. I have a lot more pendulums actually, and they are all different. Okay. So when it comes to how it's positioned, you want the weight to be even. So you don't, so for this one, right? Even though this is a shell, the weight is balanced on both sides. So you see how there's kind of like a lump here and then here. It does balance out. And so that's really important if you are making a pendulum, or even if you're purchasing one, you want it to have even weight, because with the pendulum, it swings in different directions. And I'll go over that in a little bit, but you want to make sure the weight is even. Okay. So that's really important, whether you're making it or if you're purchasing it. Some do come with different fixtures on it, just like this one I have here. And really it's about balance. So you can get very intricate types of pendulums or create your own with different copper wiring. And I love them. So I'm a tarot lover for sure. That's my favorite tool, but pendulums are like number 2 for sure. Like I use them all the time. I think they're great. They're easy to make. Let's talk about some of the benefits of pendulums. So especially compared to a tarot deck, right? So I have a tarot deck right here. And I actually keep I keep this pendulum with this deck. This pendulum, so just like you can pair your crystals if you're into decks as well, you don't have to be, but I keep this pendulum with my deck. This is the main deck that I use for clients or things like that. And this is just, I always have this with me with this particular deck. But they're very portable. So look how small this is, right? You can have different lengths of chains. You can have, see the length of like this one. This one is much longer. This one has a crystal at the top of it. So there's different things. You can even wear your pendulum. So this is actually also is a necklace that I use also as a pendulum. So you see it has a chain with a clasp. I wear this, so you can wear it, especially if you were undercover, you know. I mentioned back in the day I was a closet tarot reader. So you can have it and just wear your pendulum. I have like 3 or 4 different pendulum necklaces. And then when you want to use it, all you do is switch it around, add the hook there. You can leave the string long, you can leave it this long, or you can keep it as a double string. And then I have a pendulum. So very portable. It doubles as jewelry if you want it to be. It can be, so it's something you can be very discreet with. So that's some of the main benefits. Another thing with pendulums are there's so many different styles, and you can make them yourself. So they can be very inexpensive. All you need is a string and some type of weighted object that has some type of balance to it. So just something to be mindful of there. And yeah, let me look and see if there's any questions before I move on. The next thing I'm going to talk about is like how you can use these pendulums. Hey, Maxine. Hey, Key. Hey, Anita. Hey, MC. Does it matter the shape? Some pendulums come with added spirals. Oh, okay. I've already covered that question. Does this affect the ability? Yeah, as long as the weight is even, that's what really matters. This is something that you want to get into. Awesome. All right. So I talked about kind of what pendulums are and some of the benefits of having them. Let's talk about how you can use them. So you can use pendulums. I'll talk about how I have used pendulums. Anytime I'm talking about something, it's based off of my experience, right? They're great for yes or no questions. And this is something, you know, if you've followed any of my tarot videos, then you'll see I talk about kind of yes or no questions. And tarot is not the best to use for just a clear yes or no. Pendulums, however, are really great for just a yes or no question. And so it's like you get this instant gratification. But one of the things to be mindful of is you want to know how to read your pendulum. And I'll talk about that in a moment. But having yes or no questions is really great to use a pendulum for. And I use it for that. I also use pendulums to do energy work. So if you're into any type of energy work, I'm a cosmic energy healer. If you're into like Reiki or any form of, you know, working with your chakras, even to check your chakras, right? So you can use this if you want to tap in to see kind of which chakra you have, which chakra of yours is blocked, you know, which one's open, which one's kind of off balance. You can absolutely use a pendulum for that. It's something that I've used pendulums before all the time. I actually have a pendulum specifically. It actually has like the chakras on it. And I use that specifically to do like chakra work or some type of energy work. So in the same way I collect decks, I've been racking up my collection of pendulums. So I do have pendulums that I use for specific things. However, that was not the case when I first started, and it doesn't have to be the case for you. You can just have one pendulum for one particular thing. However, I have found over time, and just really following my intuition, that I really, especially if it had a certain crystal or something attached to it, and this crystal kind of represents a certain type of energy or it has some type of ability with a specific crystal or stone, then I started feeling more led to reserve that for specific things. So, for example, if I want to do some type of energy or clearing, right? So I talked about you can use pendulums for yes or no questions. You can use pendulums for to do energy work, or to check your chakras to see what's balanced, what's out of balance. You can also use this to check the energy of your physical space to see what areas need to be cleared. So this is great to use if you want to do a home cleansing and you want to see what energy is off. You can use it for that. So what I was mentioning about over time, as I started to collect and just get different types of pendulums, I recently got one that was like an obsidian pendulum, because I wanted to use that to focus on clearing negative energy, neutralizing energy, and this one more for one of my main pendulums that I use kind of for everything, so, but don't feel like you have to do that. And it was for a long time, I only had one pendulum, and I think it was a clear quartz. And then this is the second one that I got, which is an amethyst. So just something to keep in mind, but it's a great option to use if you are already into crystals, and you can even wrap the crystals that you currently have and make pendulums out of them. It's good to have, you want something to be weighted, but not super bulky. I do have a couple of pendulums that are bigger, but just something to be mindful of if you're going to make them. But a great way to repurpose your crystals, is a wire cage and adding a string, and you can use that to check the different energies in your house, to use yes or no questions, to check your chakras, or to check your physical space. You can also use pendulums to find things. So if you have lost something, you can use a pendulum to help you find where that is at. Whether you are asking certain questions to get closer, or you're actually walking around in your physical space with the pendulum to see to help, and then when it moves a certain way, it's kind of taking you closer to wherever that item is. I have used pendulums to find things as well. Another way that you can use pendulums, and another favorite way of mine, is to reprogram, or to clear, or to recalibrate other crystals. So for example, I mentioned I have a clear quartz crystal, and I will use that to just clear my crystals. So instead of using sage or Palo Santo or something like that, Florida water, salt, or whatever form you like to use, sometimes I will just use my pendulum. And I have one specifically to clear or reprogram or recharge my crystals, or even to check the energy of the crystals. Does this crystal need to be cleansed or not? Does this need to be cleared? So those are some great options. Let me know if any of those ways that I share with you is something that you're interested in trying, or if you have tried it before. There are so many different ways. I can, those are some of the main ways that I have used them. Another thing that I like to use pendulums for is on my altar. So I use the pendulum on my altar, especially when I'm giving, say, for offerings that I'm putting out for my ancestors and things like that. And I'll check to make sure that everything on there is balanced, that the offerings that I make, that those are good, and I'm getting a positive reading from the pendulum when it comes to what's actually on my altar. And that, if I have an offering up there, that the energy is still good, and I can leave it on there for a certain amount of time. So I'm kind of checking. I kind of use it as a quality check on my altar for certain items or things that might need to be rotated out. And that's one of my favorite ways to use that. If you are interested in learning more about altar work or getting more into specifics about that, let me know in the comments, whether you're watching the replay or not. And maybe I'll do a video on that at a later time. But those are some of my favorite ways. Also, the last one I'll share, as I mentioned, there's so many ways, is with my plants. So I have some plants that are by my altar, and just to check, like, I don't like to have my plants on a specific schedule, like, okay, let me water this plant every Thursday, because that's not how nature works. It doesn't rain every Thursday, so I'm not going to water my plants like on a specific schedule. I try to, like, usually, like, if it's raining outside, then that's when I water my plants. But I'll also use my pendulum to check, like, what do my plants need? Do you need water? Like, what's going on? Like, are you good? Do you need to be moved around? Do you need to be rotated? So I will use that to check with my plants, and just to try to check to make sure that that everything is good there, and if they're needing water or whatever. But I also talk to my plants, and so they'll talk back to me. So sometimes I'm using my pendulum, sometimes I don't. So another great way to use pendulums. I really love them. Something you want to get into? I didn't know you could do all those things. Blown away. Awesome. Yes, please make a video on different types and styles of altar work. I will definitely do that. So yeah, so many different ways. And these are things, man, I've been working with pendulums for years, and it's something that I just started figuring out ways to start using them in a lot of different ways. It doesn't always have to be just some yes or no question. So yeah, so many different things that you can use. Very portable. You can literally put it in your hand. You can wear it as a necklace. Okay, like, you can wear them. You can wear them. You can have them. They can be discreet. You can have them anywhere, and it's a really great tool. Definitely one of my favorite tools. So I've talked about how you can use them, just ways that you can use them. Now let's talk about. I'll go more into the specifics of, like, how to read with a pendulum. And then I will conclude with what's, like, things to avoid. And then I'll go into any questions that you might have, any additional questions. So, and this is one of the things, pendulums can seem quite easy and simple, but there are a lot of nuances when it comes to reading a pendulum. And you will see videos online to tell you how to do it a certain way, or to, like, make it move first and then kind of see how it goes. That's not my approach. And really, I'm always about find what method works for you. But I like to use the pendulum in my non-dominant hand, which I also refers to as my receiving hand. Okay. And I like to have my arm, especially if you're just beginning, if you're new to pendulum, you want to have your arm, like, resting on something. Okay. With your non-dominant hand, and then have your elbow supported, and then allow the pendulum to dangle. So what I just have you'll always have, like, a little fixture. A lot of pendulums will have a fixture, right? A little ball here. And I just grasp with my finger and thumb, or I will hold it like this and just let the ball rest there and hold it like that. So you can hold it whatever way works best for you. If you want to use middle finger and thumb, hold like this with two fingers, or have your palm facing upward. Whatever works best for you. I use different hand positions all the time. So whatever's most comfortable for you. Okay. And so with that, so let me just bring my hand here. Okay. Let me just bring this up a little bit. So once you have your hand and you're holding with your non-dominant hand, the reason why I suggest using your non-dominant hand is because usually with your lead hand, you have more of intention to try to swing it or manipulate it in some way, and you really don't want to do that. So how you hold it, hold the way that's most comfortable for you, but make sure your arm is supported. As you become more used to using your pendulum, then you can just, have your arm hovering, which I do all the time. But definitely if you're just starting or you want to really practice, have your arm supported. So once you're at that point, then, and you find a hand position that works for you, because you don't want to, like, have the chain wrapped up, right? You want it to swing. You just only wanted to hold it right at the very top and let the rest of the chain hang freely. So we went into how to hold it and ways you can do that. And not saying that you can't ever use your dominant side, because I use both. And that's definitely for another video. That's like for going more in depth with pendulums and how to use them with different hands and setting intentions. That's a whole nother conversation. But once you're here, now you are in the right position to now find out what your yes, your no, your maybe, and your unsure is. Okay. Because so I mentioned that a great way that you can use pendulums is for yes or no questions, but that doesn't mean that you're always going to get a yes or no response. So you might get a maybe or an unsure. And so it's always good to have, or even like a maybe or an I don't know. So I would recommend writing those things down. Write down on a piece of paper, pendulum, yes, no, maybe, I don't know, or unsure, whatever word you want to use. And then you're going to ask, there's two ways you can do this. You can ask, what is my yes? What is my no? What is my maybe? What is my I don't know? And you're asking you're asking the pendulum to show you like what is the response? How is it going to react? How is it going to swing when you are asking a question or asking something and the response is yes. Okay. And same thing for the other questions. The reason why this is important, okay, you will see other videos of people telling you that yes has to swing one way and no has to swing another way. And that's not the case. Everybody is different. Okay. So my yes and how the pendulum swings for me as a yes might be completely different for you. And this is what I have found with working with other people, showing other people how to use pendulums. And it could be the same pendulum. I can give this pendulum to my friend and have her ask those questions, the yes and the no, and it'll swing differently. So that's really important. So this is why, when it comes to how these things work, it's all about your energy. Everybody's energy is different. So for example, your yes might be spinning in a circle. And that's what this is doing right now. It's spinning in other directions is clockwise or counterclockwise, right? So for you, when you say, what is my yes, or show me my yes, it might be a counterclockwise. For someone else, it might be a counterclockwise, or it might swing back and forth or left and right. Okay. So I'm going to show you all mine. I know what mine is, of course, but I want you to see it up close here. And just for the purpose of this video, I'm shortening this here. Okay. Show me yes. So as you can see, when I'm asking this to show me yes, it's swinging. Do you see how it's swinging? It's swinging left and right. Okay. So that is my yes. That might not be your yes. If you have a pendulum, grab it right now and try it and let me know. Let me know what your swing is. So my yes is left and right. Yours might not be that. It's not wrong if how the pendulum swings for your yes is different from mine. So I want to really clarify that. But you want to write down what that is for you. So mine is side, left to right. Show me my no. So you see here, do you see the swing? It's going back and forth, forward and backward. Okay. That's my no. My no might be your yes. Okay. So that's why you want to write down how your pendulum responds to you. Be very clear with that. So I have my yes is left to right. My no is forward and backward. Okay. Show me I don't know. So my I don't know is going in a circular motion. Do you see this? It's going in a circular motion and it is going counterclockwise. Okay. Now, show me maybe. Now, with the maybe, it might be hard to tell this, but it's actually swinging at a diagonal. Okay. It's going right to left on a diagonal line. So let me do I have like something I can write on really quick. You grab the back of this. So if this was if it's like this, it's going like in an angle. So it's swinging at a diagonal like that. And that's accurate reading as well. So you might get your yes might be a diagonal that swings from right to left. Your no might be a diagonal that swings the other way, that swings left to right. It can go circular, it can go clockwise, counterclockwise, diagonal swing left to right, diagonal swing right to left. It can go forward, backward, or it can go left to right. Okay, so those are the main directions. Another thing, and let me know if you're trying this right now, let me know what your yes is, or even if you're watching the replay of this, let me know if you already have a pendulum and you're wanting to kind of identify that. What is your yes? What is your no? You want to write those things down. More often than not, it won't matter what pendulum you pick up. Those are always going to be those responses. That's been my experience. You can program your pendulums to swing specific ways for specific things. You can program your pendulums to only work for you. And if somebody else touches it, it won't work for them. But that's kind of going into more advanced stuff, okay? But you want to know just the different ways it can swing. And any of those ways, it's not wrong. It's all about knowing which way does it swing for you, so you can know how to read your pendulum. Because other videos or things that you will find, there are even pendulum charts. I even have a pendulum chart. And that's, pendulum charts are cool. But the thing is, it's already like giving you a formed yes and no. And your energy might not work with that. So that's just something to be mindful of. So I'm not discouraging you against using pendulum charts. What I would prefer is that you create your own pendulum chart. But again, that's an even more in-depth conversation, with going into charts. Right now, it's all about you connecting with your energy and knowing how to read, how your energy responds, and how the pendulum is going to respond to your energy, so you can know what that is for you. That's very important. Knowing the directions and what your yes, no, maybe, and I don't know is. Okay. So with that, we talked about how to use it, how to hold it, how to identify the yes and no's. Make sure you write that down because you might forget in the beginning. Ways that you can confirm this is asking questions that you know the answer is yes to, like your name, or your age, or your birthday, like things that are factual, okay, that you know as fact, that you know as truth. And you can just check those things. And asking questions where you definitely don't know the answer to, or questions that you know have a no response, just so you can check it. Let's talk about things to avoid or things to be mindful of. And then I'll go ahead and conclude. Well, I'll answer any other questions that you have, and then I'll conclude this mini training today. So one of the things I want you to think about, and this is another one of the nuances, right, is you want to be aligned in a way that you are not influencing the response. And that is where most people get caught up, where they get stuck with using pendulums, because they are influencing what the yes or no is versus allowing the true answer to really come through. And I talk a lot about this alignment of the mind, body, and spirit. And you want to have this alignment. And this is why I also recommend starting with your non-dominant hand, because that's usually your receiving hand. So when it comes to receiving information, drawing information from source, which is going to travel through the crown and through your body down through the pendulum, so you can get that response, right? You want to be in a neutral state, because you can purposely or even unintentionally influence how the pendulum swings. So this goes back to really knowing how you want to use the pendulum. You can use the pendulum in many ways. And for certain situations, you want to direct the pendulum. In most situations, especially if you're seeking a true answer, a true clear answer, you want to be in a neutral state so you can receive that answer. Okay. And trust me, there have been questions that I've asked this thing, and the answer that it gave me was not what I wanted to hear or see. But the reason why I was able to do that is because I actually programmed my pendulum. I set the intentions like I do not want any influence. But this is something I had to learn, a lot of trial and error in the beginning, because even how you ask your questions, how you phrase your questions, you do have to be particular with that. You have to be very clear and precise with your questions, because sometimes if it's a muddled question, then your response is going to be weird, or it's going to say, I don't know, or it might not swing for you at all. Sometimes the pendulum is like, you need to sit down somewhere. Like, what are you talking about? I'm not doing this with you today. For real. The pendulum will they'll just be looking at you. You looking at it, it's looking at you, and it's like, no, we're not doing this. Get the question right. And we can try this again. Or maybe those are just my shady pendulums. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But anyway, so yeah, you want to be clear about your questions. So you don't want to say like, you don't want something to be just some general question. So the more specific you are, the better. And then also when it comes to, if you have a certain answer in your mind and you're like, okay, I want the answer to be yes, I want the answer to be yes, then it might already start swinging yes before you even answer, because you're putting all of your energy into yes versus allowing yourself to be in a neutral state to receive the truth. So this is where you want to be. You want to be in a state where you're not allowing your ego to override the response that you get from your pendulum. So that's something so one of the things that I started doing in the beginning is really, if I was asking a question in there and I felt like fear, it's just like, okay, I want to make sure that I'm in a place of that I'm centered, and that I'm not trying to just hope to have one thing, and I really want to receive the truth. So that could be trial and error for you to kind of find that within yourself, because as I mentioned before, when it comes to using pendulums, this energy, this truth, the responses are, you're drawing it through your crown, it's going through your body. It's like a current, an energetic current, right? That's why everybody's yes and no and stuff, that's going to be different, because everybody's energy is different and how it is reading is different. But the way, whatever you are communicating with. So another thing I forgot to mention, another way you can use pendulums is to communicate with spirits, with ancestors. You can communicate with other beings, whatever, right? And I've done that before too. So depending on the energy that you're drawing in, right? And some of the main energy that you're going to want to draw in is the truth, right? Is whatever is in your highest good for the particular question that you might be asking. Or if you want a response from a one of your ancestors or something like that, or your guides, then you want to be in a neutral place. You don't want to be in a point where you get kind of fixated and all the things you want to avoid is like always going to the pendulum. Like, okay, should I go outside today? Yes or no? Yes or no? It's telling me I should go outside today, which I probably should. But you don't want to just for every little thing, should I go outside today? Should I eat this or that? Should I do this? Like for every single aspect of your life, like you don't want to be to a point where you're solely fixated on always using the pendulum for every single thing, or hoping that the answer that you get, say it tells you, like it just told me, when I asked, should I go outside today? Right? It's giving me yes, like you should go outside today, right? It's saying that, but if I really don't want to go outside, then it's like, but now if I'm putting no in my head, like, should I go outside? Like, I really don't want to go outside. Like, it's telling me I should go outside. Like, are you sure I should go outside? And now it's actually changing. It actually stopped. See, this is what I'm talking about. My pendulum knows when I'm full of it. Okay. My pendulum knows, this one in particular, because I programmed it to be like, listen, override my bullshit. Like override it. Don't even don't deal with my ridiculousness. Like if I'm trying to and this is something, again, I had to learn over time when I was really kind of questioning the response that I got. If I'm like, okay, well, I don't like the response that I got, then why, now I'm going back in to ask the question again or ask it differently so I can get a different response. My pendulum literally stopped. It was like, no, I said what I said. So yeah, those are things, some of the nuances and things you want to avoid. You don't want your ego to get in the way of the response. You don't want the answer that you get, as you start to learn yourself and know how to phrase your questions or set your intentions with your pendulum, then, and how to really work with your pendulum, how your energy, the state that you should really be in, then you'll really start to build a deeper bond with your pendulum, but also how you interact with your pendulum, like your energy. So this tool it's simple, but there's a lot of intricacy there. And that's something that I did not realize when I first, oh, knocking over the desk, when I first started using pendulums. Because you can influence the swing of certain things, and your ego can override it if you allow it to. So it really is about, what I have found, what I have learned is just the personal development and the personal awareness that I've had to have so I can get a clearer response. Because if you go in and ask the same question 2 or 3 times and you get 2 or 3 different responses, that means you are not in a state to fully, truly receive a clear response. So it's also an indicator of just kind of where you're at energetically when it comes to really getting being in a state of stillness or clarity. So just something to kind of think about. And again, it depends on what you're going to use the pendulum for. But for those yes or no questions and things like that, you really don't want to be in a state of fear. You don't want to be in a state of, like, this is what I want the answer to be. You really need to be more open to receiving truth. And, sometimes you don't want to hear the truth. You want to hear what you want to hear. You want a certain outcome, and you're not really trying to hear or see it a different way. So if you're in that state, then that's not what you should be using. You should not be using a pendulum, or you should not be using the pendulum to ask certain questions. Maybe use it for one of the other things that I've mentioned. So yeah. So I think that is everything. Let me know if you have any questions, or what your thoughts were. What were some of your takeaways from what I shared when it comes to pendulums? I feel like pendulums don't get enough of the glow up that it deserves, that they deserve. Pendulums are, so if any of you are just tuning in, I've been sharing some different ways you can use pendulums. You can wear pendulums. They're very discreet and portable. A lot of different options that you can use here. A lot of different ways you can make them yourself. So it's really cool. A lot of different things there. If I don't see any questions, so I will conclude this training. I hope that you enjoyed it. And if you're watching the replay, let me know in the comments what your questions are, or what your thoughts were, what you learned, or what you disagreed with, or what kind of things are you inspired to use now if you already have a pendulum, or even with, if you don't have one, are you considering getting one now? Let me know. Oh, okay. Anita's saying that you think you're going to get one and see how it works. Awesome. Well, let me know how it works for you. And hey, Erin. Hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm at the tail end here. I'm going to conclude this video. I hope you enjoy it. If you think this would be useful for somebody else, be sure to share it. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do a video every Tuesday. Other than that, I'll do some bonus live streams like I'm doing today. So other than that, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you on the next one.